Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ITSnippets. Microsoft has released a new update to Windows 10. It is now 21H1 and as always I'm going to teach you how to slipstream it. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to legally obtain your Windows media, so let's get started. The first thing you have to do is head over to Microsoft's website. That's www.microsoft.com/en-gb/software-download/Windows 10. An easier way to find it would be to just search for the media creation tool. Once you're on the website, you can see you have two options. You have Update Now, which will update the machine you're actually using. But in this case, we want to slipstream it, so we're going to Download Tool Now. So you click on Download Tool Now, and it will save to your download folder. Once it's been downloaded, open up your download folder and simply double click on it. Windows account control will kick in, user account control rather. Once that kicks in, click yes, and then give it a minute to get started. Okay, the end user license agreement will pop up, so click accept after reading the terms and conditions. And it will give you two options. You can upgrade this PC, or you can create installation media. We want to select create installation media. As you can see, it says USB flash drive, DVD or ISO from our PC, and we're obviously going to be using an ISO to create a DVD. So then we click next. It will give us a selection of language, edition and architect. I'm just using the ones that are optional for this PC, but if you untick this box, you can then select different languages and the 32-bit edition or the 64-bit edition. So for this time being, I'm only using 64-bit, so I won't use that. I'll click next. It's asking me if I want to create a USB drive, so I could plug in an 8GB USB drive and make a bootable Windows disk directly from this. But since we're going to add additional drivers and security patches to it, I'm just going to click an ISO file and click next. It's going to ask me where I want to save it. So I'm going to give it the name Windows-21h1.iso, and in this case I'm saving it onto my D drive. You'll have to remember where this is when you use NTLite later to continue slipstreaming this build, so just click save once you've selected where it goes. I've already created one, but I'm going to just say yes to replace it in the pop-up, and then we'll wait for that to go through. Okay, and there you go. We can see that it's completed. It saved it to dcon/windows-21h1.iso, and it gives me the option to open a DVD burner and burn it. But since I'll be using USB keys for that, I won't be doing that. I'll just click finish. It'll take a moment to clean itself up. And there we go. That's us now got a legit copy of Windows 10, which we can now use to slipstream. The first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to browse to our folder, which has our Windows ISO. So if you watched my previous tutorial, you will know that I had that in my D drive. So if I go to my D drive, here's my Windows image that I created. I can right click it and click mount. Once it's mounted, I select everything on it and click copy. You can do that using the keyboard, doing Control A and holding Control and pressing C. I'm going to keep a copy of it in my D drive, so I'm going to right click, I'm going to do new folder, and I'm going to do Win1021H1, and then I'm going to go in that folder, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to paste. Now while that's copying, I'm going to right click my start bar, I'm going to Windows PowerShell Admin, I'm going to say yes when user account control kicks in. Now I've already created a folder in my D drive called drivers, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'll actually create another folder. So in order to export our drivers, in order to load them into our Windows image, we do export dash Windows driver space dash online for the ones that are being used dash destination. I'm going to do d/driv. Okay, and what I'll do beforehand is I'll jump over here, I'll go into my D drive and I'll right click, I'll do new folder, I'll call OneDrive. Go back over here, I'm going to hit return and give it a moment and it should back up my drivers to the d/drive folder. This could be a USB drive, it could be placed on your network, whatever you need it to be. Okay, as you've seen that all scroll across, that's it backed up all of my drivers. We can confirm this by changing over to the drive folder, as you can see here, and they're all included. Now let's go back a folder and go into our Win1021H1 folder and see if that's finished copying. If I click down here, it looks like it has. So we now have a backed up version extracted of our Windows 10 image ISO. I now have backed up our drivers in order to slipstream them. The first thing we need to do is download a copy of NTLite. In order to do this, we go to www.NTLite.com. That's www.ntlite.com. That's L-I-T-E. Once we're on the NTLite page, click on download. I'm using a 64-bit operating system. The chances are you probably are too, so I'm just going to select the latest stable version and click download. And I'm going to save that to my downloads folder. Once it's complete, I'm going to double click it and install it like any other Windows application. When user account control kicks in, select yes. Obviously, you agree to the terms and conditions after reading them. You can create a desktop shortcut or use portable mode if you want. It's up to you. And then just click finish. It will also run NTLite at this point. And the first thing I want it to do is go up here. I'm going to click add. I'm going to select image directory. And I'm going to point that to the folder that we extracted in the previous tutorial. That's the Win1021H1. So I'm going to select that. And you'll see it gives me a list of operating systems down here. So I'm interested in Slipstreaming Windows 10 Pro, so I'm going to double click on that. It's going to ask me if I want to convert the image to a standard WIM format. The current image will be replaced after conversion and backup manually before this operation. So I'm going to say OK. And we'll give that time to do its thing. Okay, so now that that's extracted, what we have to do, or what we want to do, is we're going to slipstream the latest Windows updates in there. So we can do that by going down to updates on the side, clicking add, and the latest online updates. As you can see, it's detected a version of Windows, and it says we're missing 2 updates apparently. So I can click enqueue down in the bottom corner, since it had already automatically selected them all. Then we want to import our drivers, so we click on drivers, and then click add. And we'll do a directory containing drivers, add. And we will go to the drive folder that we extracted our drivers to in the previous tutorial. So I'm going to select that, give it a moment. Okay, so for some reason it thinks there's a bad driver in there, but that's fine. Occasionally it happens, click OK. I also have additional drivers, so if you had multiple machines and they backed them up to different folders, you can click add, directories, add again, and you can select other folder, which in this case I've got one called drivers, so I can select folder. And you can do this for as many folders as required. There we go. Obviously there's a bunch of duplicates because this machine was in that folder as well. So click OK. And once that's done, if you just want to do the absolute minimum to get it on the road, you can then click down at apply. Now I always save the image in trim additions, and that makes it for a smaller ISO. I also remove non-essential additions, because again, that makes a smaller ISO. The image format I actually leave as WIM, because I may want to edit it again in the future. And I always click create an ISO, so when I do that, it will pop up. As you can see, I've got a few in here, so I'll call this NTLite May and hit return. It's asking me to give it a label, so NTLite May and hit return again. And then that's pretty much it. If you just want to slipstream your drivers and slipstream the updates, you would just click proceed. It tells me that I've got an issue with having a firewall and antivirus running. I'm not turning it off for the sake of this, so I'm just going to close that down and wait for that to run in the background. This can take some time, and depending on the speed of your system, may take longer than you see here. I will obviously speed this up in post. Okay, it's telling me that it's completed the download. That's because it's just adding like an extra blockage in there because I'm not using the paid version of it. So you click OK, it'll move on to the next step. Okay, that's taken 53 minutes to get to this point. So as I've said, this isn't a very quick process. I'm running a quad-core i7-7700, so not top of the line, but still not a slouch. And it took just under an hour to do this. So as you can see, it says completed down here. So I can close this. And if I now go to my D drive and into my folder where I saved the image, which is the VMs and then ISOs, and I'll just bring that into the monitor so you can see it. There's NTLite May that I've just created. As you can see, it's 7.5 gigs in size. Now, the easiest way and safest way to actually test an ISO is to actually test it on a virtual machine. As you can see in front of me, I'm using a Hyper-V box. So the first thing I need to do is create a new machine to test this on. So I'm going to go right-click, New Virtual Machine. Virtual machine name will be 110 Test. I'm quite happy storing it where it is just now. That shouldn't be an issue, I don't think. Go click Next. I'm okay with it being Generation 1. Click Next. So I want to give it 1 gig, but I'll give it 4096, so that's 4 gig. I'll use dynamic memory as well, which will allow it to increase or decrease as required. Click Next. Let's run a network connection. I'll leave that just now because I still need to configure that separately. Click Next. I'm okay with it being called Intent Test and create a new hard drive for it, as you can see here. So I'm just going to click Next. Again, this tutorial is about doing the test, not actually about the installation itself. So it's asking me if I want to install an operating system later, or install from a bootable CD or DVD-ROM, install from a bootable floppy disk. So I'm actually going to install a DVD-ROM. I'm going to select ISO, I'm going to click Browse, and I'm just going to map to the folder. Okay, so the image you've seen me create in the previous tutorial was called NTLite-May. So I've selected my NTLite-May ISO, I'm going to click Open, and I'm going to click Next, and I'm going to click Finish. That should create a new virtual machine. Okay. So now we've got our virtual machine created. I should be able to right click and connect. I'm going to click Start to power on the machine. It should automatically boot to the Windows disk, and it looks like it has. You are at the Windows setup, so I want me to choose my language. English UK is fine. English UK and United Kingdom, that's all fine. Just click Next and then click Install Now. It's asking me for a serial number, but I don't really care about that just now, so I'm just going to click I do not have a product key. Show me the end user licensing agreement, so read through that at your leisure. Click I accept if you do agree and click Next. I always do a custom setup, so it's asking me if I want to upgrade or do a custom setup. I'm going to do a custom setup. As you can see, it's set up a 127 gig drive of empty. That's fine. I'm just going to click Next and let it do the partitioning itself. And we'll just let that install. Okay, that's it doing a reboot just now. It should now boot back into Windows, and we should get that out of box setup eventually. Okay, it's asking me to choose my language. So I'm going to try and go into audit mode, which is Control Shift and F3, and it will reboot and go into audit mode. Okay, so it's now booted into audit mode. You're probably going to struggle to see that. So what I'll do for the time being is I'm just going to move the sysprep window down here, just out of sight. Close that. I'm going to try and change the resolution. Okay, that's not bad. Let's see if we can go a little higher. No, 1080p is as high as they're going to let me go, but that's fine. Okay. So we'll close that just now. The first thing you want to do when you go into audit mode is just be sure that it's got all the drivers it requires. So you run Windows Update. Okay, we can get to it through Windows Update settings, so that's fine. Just click on here. Let's try and maximize that just now. It says there's no updates available. I'm going to check for updates. It's not going to work because there's no internet access at the moment. We shall have to fix that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do shutdown. But the next time it boots up, I want it to enter audit mode. So I've just selected enter audit mode and shutdown. I'm going to click OK. And just wait for that to power down. You would normally have to do this. It's just I have not configured my Hyper-V correctly. So inside the Hyper-V server, I need to click new virtual switch to be an external switch. So I'm going to create the switch. I'm going to call it internet. I could select it to use Wi-Fi or to use killer networking. I'm going to try and use killer networking. So that's Ethernet. So click apply. Give it a moment. Hopefully that'll work. Okay, click OK on that. Now I can go back into my Hyper-V machine. Looks like it's failing to connect, so I can remove the server and then right click connect again. Okay, I'm going to go to the settings of my machine. Cut most of this shit out in post. Click OK, click apply, click OK, power it on. Okay, so that's coming to set up the network adapter I just set up. I'll just make it discoverable for the time being. It's not really going to be an issue. The machine's not going to last long enough to cause any problems. So for the time being, I'll always change that to audit mode just to be on the safe side in case I screw something up. Go back down here. I'll go back into Windows Update. Just check for updates. We'll click on that. Hopefully it should have internet now. There we go. It's found some updates that hasn't been installed, which is basically updates for Windows Defender, .NET Framework, and the malicious spyware removal tool, so it's installing them just now. It also has a optional update, but if you see there it says preview, you really don't want to install previews unless you absolutely have to, so I would say no for this. Okay, now that that's fully up to date, we shall go check our internet access and see if we can install some apps. Now you could have done this beforehand, as I've shown in previous tutorials, but you can also do it at this point. So go to www.ITSnippets.com. Okay, and here we can select what applications we want to install. So I use Opera as my main browser. I use Notepad++. I use VLC. And to be fair, that's pretty much all I need from this just now. So we'll go down here, I'm going to click Get Your 99, and it should download a file, which it does. Once that's finished downloading, just double click it. As you can see, it's currently installing Opera. It will then install Notepad++ and then finally VLC. Okay, so those three applications have been installed, so click Close. Now while we're in here, we could do something smart. We could also debloat our Windows 10 image and try and make it faster. I've never tried to do this in audit mode, so let's see if it works. So we'll just try and find the debloater script. We'll head over to our privacy search engine, DuckDuckGo, and do Windows ND bloater. As you can see, there's a GitHub script for it. So we click on code, download the zip. Okay, we'll open up in File Explorer. We'll go in here and we'll grab all of the scripts. Just right click copy. And what we'll do is we will move them back here. Go into the C drive, we'll create a temporary folder. So right click, new folder, temp. We'll place them in there. Okay, so the one we're really interested in is the Win10 Debloater GUI, because that gives us a GUI so we know what we're doing. So the best way to run it is to right click on your start menu, go run PowerShell admin, obviously change to the root directory and then change to the temp folder. And then in order to run it, we would do Windows 10 debloater, we'll press tab again, and we'll get the Windows 10 debloater GUI and hit return. Okay, it's complaining that our execution policy is incorrect. So we can do set dash execution policy all, and then we can try that again. Okay, that didn't work, so we'll try bypass. We'll select all again and try, and this is looking healthier. Okay, as you can see, it's come up with debloat options. So I'm just going to click remove all bloatware and give it a moment. I don't even know if this script has been tested on Windows 21H1. I guess we're about to find out. Okay, so it says it's finished all tasks, that should be done. We shall make sure Cortana is disabled, make sure Edge PDF is disabled, and I want to enable the dark theme, as I prefer it. It gives me the option to uninstall OneDrive, to unprint else from the start menu, disable telemetry and tasks, and remove bloatware edge keys. So I'm going to remove the bloatware edge keys. Now removing this stuff will make for a faster install. Okay, and I'm also going to disable the telemetry and tasks. So that should now be a debloated version of Windows that now has our custom applications. So we can close that just now, and we can close that, and we can close that, and again. Now, because we did some Windows updates, what we're going to want to do is change this to enter audit mode again and do a reboot so that the operating system does its additional actions. Okay, now we're back inside Windows. There you can see we have the desktop icons for Edge, Opera, Notepad, and VLC, but I don't really need the desktop icons, so I'm going to delete them. Now our image is ready to be generalized and then created into another ISO. So in order to do this, we click Generalize and we shut down the system because we will have to power it up in Windows PE and then capture this image. So next time it runs, I do want it to enter the out-of-box experience. So select that and click OK. In order to capture this image, we're going to have to boot into Windows PE or Windows pre-install environment. So we'll have to go into the settings of the machine. And then down here where we're pointing to our Windows image, we have to change that. We'll click Browse and we'll select the Win10PE image. If you don't know how to create a Win10PE image, I have a tutorial on that I have recorded previously. So I'm just going to click Open on that, click Apply, OK, and I'm going to start that up. I'm going to press Space to boot from a CD. It probably won't let me change the screen resolution here. So it won't let me change the screen resolution here. So you're just going to have to bear with me, unfortunately. For a stretch, does it help? No, it doesn't let me. Okay. If I change to the C drive and do a DIR, there's nothing. If I change to the D drive and do a DIR, you can see that looks like our Windows install. So I'm going to clear the screen to make it easier for you. CLS rather. And to capture the image, I'm going to use dism/capture-image. And I'm going to say image file : and then the path I want it to go to and the file name. So it's going to be c:21h1.win, then a space, then /capture the : c:/, but that's not right. It's going to be, actually I've made a mistake. It should be d:/ over here. So d:/ space, and then I need to give it a name. It's an American keyboard. I'll call it Windows 10 21h1-no bloat. Okay. So I'm saying dism, that's image capture tool. I'm telling it what to do, capture-image. I'm telling it the image file I want to create, so d:/21h1.win. I'm telling it the capture directory, so that's the drive that I want to capture. In this case, it's d:, and then I'm giving it the name, Windows 10 21h1-no bloat. Hopefully I've got that correct. Hit return, and I've not, so I'll clear the screen. And as you can see, dism has kicked in, the deployment image service and management tool. And we'll give it that a moment and it will create a new image. So the operation has been complete. I'm going to see if I can map a network drive and copy this over to my NAS. Okay, it looked like it let me map that drive successfully. I should have a Z drive. I'll change the Z drive, the DIR, that is my NAS. So I can then do copy c:/r.wim to Z:/. Why didn't that work? Because it's D:, so. And it's now copying my 21h1 WIM across. Hopefully that shouldn't take too long. Okay, now that that's copied across, I'll log on to my NAS and check. And as you can see, it's copied across and it's 8.1 gig. So now what we can do is we can power off this virtual machine, shut it down. That failed to shut down. Okay, close that just now and just stop it. First thing we're going to have to do is we're going to take our ISO image that we have previously created and slipstreamed all of our drivers into. And what we're going to do is we're going to extract that like we did previously with our Windows 10 image before we slipstreamed anything into it. So I've opened my Explorer and go to new laptop backup. It's on my D drive. The image is inside a folder called VMs, Tools, ISOs, and there we have it. NTLite may no bloat. So I'm going to right click that and I'm going to click Mount. I'm now going to click on the mounted drive, do Control A and Control C to select everything and copy it. Then I'm going to go to my D drive. I've already created a folder called 21h1 no bloat. I just did that by going right click, new folder, and then giving it a name. Inside here I'll paste everything that's just been copied. Okay, so now that that's copied across, what we want to do is we want to take the image that we extracted and captured earlier on, which is our WIM. As you can see, mine's called 21h1, so I'm going to Control C to copy that. And I'm going to copy that into the sources. Inside here, there should be one called install.wim. So I want to delete that. And then I want to paste in our new WIM file. Okay, now that's been done, we want to rename our 21h1.wim to install.wim after the one that we have just deleted. And then we want to open NTLite. Say yes to user account control when it kicks in. Then we want to click add, image directory, and point it to our 21h1 folder. Now I'm going to cancel mine. In order to save time, I already have mine loaded up here. So I'll double click that to load it fully within NTLite in order to make any edits. Okay, now that that's imported, all we actually want to do is to create an image. If you, for example, needed to load new drivers or patches at this point, in fact, I may as well do it. We can do the updates and drivers like you've seen in the previous tutorial. In this case, I'll check for the latest online updates. There probably will be some, as this was made in May and it is now June. There we go. And it's also saying there's some external updates, so I'll select them as well. I'll click in queue, then I will go down to apply. As always, I save the image and trim additions. I normally remove non-essential additions, however there's none to actually remove in this one. Image format is always going to be a WIM, and I'm going to create the ISO. I'm just going to create this on my D drive and I'm going to call it June 21H1, no bloat. Spelled that incorrect, but that'll work, and it's asked me to give it a label, so I'm just going to click OK. Now I'm going to click proceed. As usual, it's giving me the warning about my firewall running. I'm just going to close that down, and we will wait for the pop-up to tell us that the driver's been downloaded. And there it is. Just click OK. Okay, our image is now created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find it on my D drive, and there's there, and I'm going to rename it bloat since I used the term bloat. And there we go. We can now use this using something like Rufus or test it in a virtual machine, copy it to USB or whatever we would normally do with ISO in order to use it. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you disliked this video, give it a dislike too. If you get feedback on this or any other videos or suggestions for videos you believe we should do in the future, then please let us know in the comments below. And most of all, thank you for watching.